nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thanks, Judy. I didn't walk over your lines too much. Welcome, everyone. We have really two meetings tonight. First and foremost, we have a public hearing on the 2012-2013 budget, a mandated and required meeting by the state of New York that we are required to hold this week, basically. It is always, the state mandates that we hold this budget hearing after we adopt the budget. That's New York State, and so we do what we are told. And but we are always happy to discuss the budget. And before we have the budget hearing, we're going to have a little budget telling. I think, Dr. Brown, you're just going to give a little bit more information to the public, and then we'll hear from anyone that wishes to speak.
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Ainsley. I wish to. I want to hear you ask us the email address. Has been great. So we've received some questions about the budget already today. A couple that I wish to address tonight before the hearing, because I know some folks may be here to address those same questions, so I just want to give a little bit of information. And when Ms. Johnson gets in, I'll speak to the pamphlet or mailer. But administration costs, you'll see in the budget mailer and in the budget itself some increase in administration costs. I wish for the public to know administration costs cover much more than what people should traditionally think about as far as administrators or central office administrators. And I wish to go through and I apologize for not having a fancy slide tonight, but I just got this email right before the exec session, so I took notes on a paper copy. So this is unlike me, but I hope you get the message across.
It's old school.
It's old school.
I'm really happy.
So this may resonate with you. So a 9% increase in administration costs, about $1 million. So I'm looking at the various line items that cover administration. Everything from the Board of Education costs or associated fees to BOE fees to curriculum and instruction and what we do with staff development. And I'll just speak to some ballpark figures that will be represented in the increase and in ways we've increased the budget or adjusted resources to allow for some of the things that we're going to do. That also speaks to the 9% increase in administration costs. So increases to staff development. Our Summer Professional Development Institute, the institute that we hope to bring 250 teachers to this summer. This year it's going to be embedded. Those dollars in previous years we sort of pieced together from various budget lines. We transferred the monies for that conference to the appropriate curriculum and instruction line, which is part of administration. Therefore, you see a significant increase. About $200,000 are transferred into this administration line to cover the Summer Institute work, along with some of the other staff development pieces that we're going to be needing help with next year, including the implementation of our new reading series, if we do that. Well, I'm sorry, math series, if we do that, and some of our staff development around our literacy framework, when we do those kind of things, when we bring in educators before or after school or on a staff development day to pay them, we have those dollars embedded there. Technology. And again, the chart that spoke to the 9% increase was an expenditure chart, not a revenue chart. So that's where it gets kind of complicated when we talk about our leases and we talk about our BOE service or the things that we get aided on. As you know, we now have a distribution cycle and a replacement cycle for technologies. And we've said all along that that was going to come with no new monies and hopefully with some efficiencies. Entering into lease agreements through our OC and BOCES, we've had to move those dollars into the administration cost line, which is the BOCES line. You'll see a $400,000 increase to technologies there because we put the lease in this line. We're going to get back aid there. So when it's all said and done, and we're pulling the technology dollars from several lines, when looking at this through the various lines, we're going to save monies on technologies going forward while we have a replacement cycle, while we've increased the technologies that are in our buildings. But when looking at the administration line item in the budget, you'll see an increase. But please know that there's much more to it than just a traditional increase of technology. BOCES services, administration costs for BOCES have gone up about $60,000, so that's a part of this piece here. Health and retirement benefits have gone up significantly. Those are represented in the administration increases there. Building level supervision. In the board, we have several administrators on special assignment that are providing much support for the implementation of APPR. One of our administrators on special assignment did 145 observations over the past year. We anticipate that need increasing over the coming years. So we put those administrators on special assignment, which were traditionally in other lines into the administration costs. That's and therefore you see a bit of an increase there. And then you'll see some transition planning that we had in the central office. We talked about our central office reorganization as being something we would do with no new dollars being associated with it. But the board and the community also spoke to providing some transition support for the staff members who will be transitioning in and out. With the additional state aid monies that we received, we decided to put about $150,000 into that transition period. So about $1 million in increases to the administration costs, represent about a 9% increase. But please know, it's coming from things that we've done to tighten up budget lines, shift things around, and things that we know are needed for us to achieve the Board of Education priorities and goals. That's a bit of a long-winded explanation from me about something without a slide. So I hope that makes some sense. So is that clear to the board? Again, the last thing I want to do is have administration costs go up and not have an explanation for it. Which leads me to another question that came through, and I see someone who actually helped us with this in the audience today, who helped us with this piece that we missed. And Kira has helped me with this a lot today because I was upset. I realized that we're not the New York Times or the Ithaca Journal or any other major publication that puts out 30,000 mailings a day, or even those folks who put out millions of copies of a paper in a day. They have on page 7 buried in the corner a corrections plan. I'm here to say we made an error. We had a typo in our budget mailing. We aren't accustomed to doing 30,000 mailings in a day. We're getting better at it. We hope that the board and the community recognizes that we made some shifts to make this cleaner, more informative, and more engaging, and more coherent. That was what we were tasked to do, and we think we've done that. But I wish for the community to know, and we'll have this on our website, and we'll put out a press release that we have a typo that affected some of the numbers. On page 3, in the chart, there, above the pretty picture of the Health and Wellness Center, we have the program line. That number of 75,571,273 should have been 72,571. Here it is, 72,571,273. Which then, with that typo there, that affected the other numbers on that line. We're cleaning that up. We're going to put out the correction. It'll be posted on our website. We'll put out a press release, I think much more than what the New York Times would have done. But again, for an organization that's committed to achieving excellence, to have a typo in anything is something that we are proud of. So we just want the community to know that we aren't perfect and we're doing our best to do what's right. But we want to be also transparent. And when we make a mistake, we'll own up to it and we'll correct it immediately. And thank you for the folks who pointed that out to us today, because we want to hear you. We read that email all day. And thank goodness we read it today, and we found that error.
And it won't happen.
And it won't. We hope that it won't happen again. I used to say never. I will never say never again. But if it happens again, we'll do another press release. So those are some of the things that we've been addressing through our email inbox, and I'm hoping that gives the community some more information about our budget.
Thanks, Dr. Rob.
Yeah.
And I guess at this time, this is the budget hearing, and there is a sign-up sheet, and there's some folks signed up to speak at the regular board meeting, and that will be when we're done with the public hearing meeting, which, I'm leaving that aside, and really this is an opportunity for anyone in the room. If you wish to speak to the budget, ask a question. We're glad to clarify anything about the budget, about what we're doing in the district. This is that time. So feel free. Don't everyone raise your hand at first, but I'll glad to. And this is the time to do it. And I'm going to take a drink. Peter, again.
Peter Hoyt's my name. I was troubled by that $1 million, and I think I understand kind of how it's being used now, and I feel better about it. But we always got to remember the taxpayers, and I know you guys do. I do appreciate that. Usually you don't get the tax, and I've got 2 kids in the school district right now, so I am wearing both hats. I'm wearing my parent hat and my taxpayer hat. I was a taxpayer before I was a parent, and I'll probably continue to be a taxpayer long after my kids are out of the school district. And I think the board does do a good job, and I like the administration. I think you guys are doing a good job. but we can't forget the taxpayers. There's a lot of people who want stuff, you know, and everybody wants their own thing. And I used to be on the town board in Slaterville, and people would say, I don't want if my taxes go up for this. I say, well, is it okay if your taxes go up for that, that, and that? Oh, no, I don't want to go up for that. So I know you guys are well aware of that, and I want to thank you for the work you're doing. So.
Thank you. Anyone else? Anything's fine? Corinne, please.
You can just come.
Yeah. I was practicing waiting. Okay. So actually, I have a few questions that I'd like to ask. One is, I'd like to start out directly with, I've actually looked over the budget, and I noticed that there is an increase of $50,000 under the Board of Education item. And it looks like it's for 16 non-instructional salaries, which is approximately $3,125 per year for 16 people, I guess. It does say 16 non-instructional salaries. My question is, what is that?
Well, the 16, Brad, if you,
16?
What
What
page?
page?
That's a
16.
code. That's a
It's
code.
52,000.
It's
That's an
page
account,
one.
it's an account code.
Right.
That's not speaking to a number of people. It's an account code.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's very clear. Okay.
Well, no, that's what all
What
of
is the
those,
54?
that's what the
50,000.
numbers are in front of all of those are account codes.
Okay. Oh, I see. Oh, I
And-
see.
right,
I
right.
get it. 16, 4, 45 are
And the answer on the
Yeah.
Board of Education is the board clerk. It used to be a line by itself
Okay.
and is now set in the budget under Board of Education because the clerk works for the Board of Education.
And again, the codes are dictated by the states, and we have to report all the line items according to a code, so we can be compared, and the state knows which money we are putting where, basically.
But that's what that change is.
That's a change from one year to the next.
These questions, I wanted to say, are not leading in terms of any bias. I'm actually just curious. And so one of the things that I'm curious about is...
That was exciting.
Okay, hang in there. It might get exciting in a minute. It looks like there's an increase of $313,000 for psychological services. I'd like to know about that.
Where are you? What page?
I'm on page 5. I happen to be a psychologist, so I thought that could be very positive, but I was curious what that was. So page 5, it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 items down. Psychological services, regular schooling.
Margaret's still in the room?
I am, I'm trying to find.
Or there had to be a reclassification of something.
I'm sure it wasn't.
Because we didn't hire anybody.
Okay, so a lot of this is shifting things around, is that what's
I think
happening?
it's a reclassification. I don't know the answer to that one.
All right.
What we have seen, Corinne, is as with the administration line, the state does change the rules on how we report. And certainly, Corinne, if there's any very detailed line-by-line questions, we can certainly, get back
That
to.
one does stick out.
Yeah, I thought it did stick out a
The
bit.
ones that stick out, typically that's going to be a recategorization of other expenses.
So I have,
And
I
Margaret?
do know what that one was.
Okay.
This is, and you'll see that in some of the other lines, this is a result of having to take, you heard about the funding cliff and the jobs money that was in special aid. And when that money went away, the jobs had to come into the general fund, and several of those positions had been funded through that money.
I see.
So that's what that was.
So those are positions.
The stimulus money, Margaret, is that
Yes.
what it is?
Yeah,
So this is covering individuals involved with special education, you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. I guess I would like to know, since I did an incredibly quick adding up of the decreases on the administration side and increases on the other side, how are our reserve funds holding? In other words, it looks like there's $1 million being transferred from reserve funds to cover some of these items, and so I haven't been following it closely enough, so I am asking.
There's a page in here, I've got to find it.
Good question.
Speaks to it. And of course, it's not numbered. It's one of these pages, it's the last of the pages with the yellow heading on the top of it.
Is that page 18?
It isn't numbered, unfortunately.
Oh, no.
It says revenue at the top. It's got real property tax, and then it speaks to the various reserves.
I got it, right.
You see it? So we're proposing to use $113,000 from a liability reserve, $1,007,000 from our retirement reserve. We fortunately have some money reserved against what is now a pretty peak payment in the retirement system. Employee benefits, we also had some money reserved against that. We're taking $886,000 from there, and we had an unemployment reserve, and we're taking $50,000 from there. So yes, we are using some reserves, and in addition to that, you'll remember that there's a second proposition coming up for vote, and that's to take money from the capital reserve to acquire buses and do some minor capital projects around the district.
Okay.
And your general question, your more general
the
question
status
about
of it.
the status of our reserves, we're still in pretty good shape reserve-wise. We're using them, but we're trying to use them judiciously here at this point in time.
And is there something about, I mean, for example, if certain items don't get used, do those monies go back into the reserve fund
Correct.
during the year?
Well, the voters approve a budget that's a maximum expenditure. The way it works is we can't spend more than. But if we spend less than over the course of the year, then that money can be moved into reserves for the following year or years, whenever you want to use it.
But that's not automatic? Is that discretionary?
Well,
It all depends.
No, is it discretionary? If you spent every cent, then there's nothing to have
Right.
discretion over. If we actually spend the entire approved budget, then there's nothing to worry about. To the extent that there's funds left, we need to assign them somewhere.
Right. to
On
certain
June 30th, at the end of the year. So we would put them either to a fund balance, either a designated fund balance or the undesignated fund balance, the unappropriated fund balance, or we can put them in a reserve.
There's, as Brad just said, there's approximately 4 different, essentially fund balance, savings accounts that we use. So, right. And,
Right.
yeah.
Our total of all of those is slightly over $20 million.
Okay.
And to give you a feel, we're using a nice portion of it this year. I mean, obviously you can't do it forever, but we're hopeful that we're not going to need it for 10 years.
And Corinne, you've been to a few audit meetings and audit presentations from our auditors that monitor how much we spend, and that's a very important meeting. So we have a firm accounting at the end of the year. How much did we spend? This budget is a proposed budget, but we always need to monitor how much are we spending. And so we monitor very closely. Okay, how are we doing? And we'll get a report from Margaret and Angela throughout the year. How are we doing? How are the fund balances doing for this current year? Because we're already planning on the 13-14 budget. So we're really we're moving on and building that. So we are using savings, but we generate savings, and so it's the dynamic of we don't want to use the savings faster than we can generate replacement. But if we do, it can't be to a fast extent in any one year. So the burn rate, right? We can't burn through our savings quickly. So we have really a 4 to 5 year plan, I would say, but it's a looking forward and how we may use these savings in the future, and we discuss that consistently, really multiple times through the year, because we need a pretty good idea of where do we stand. It's that and we get a good idea in September, and then how to build a budget, the final budget numbers from there.
And then my final question has to do, sorry.
No, go ahead, Karen. Eldridge is going to weigh in a second. You need?
I have a question that may be relevant to your last question. It's something I don't know, right? So Margaret is trying to explain to the public that despite the state's apparent hard tax cap of 2%, after you go through 8 zillion calculations, we actually could have gone out to the public with a 3.1% tax levy. We did not do that. Our tax levy is 2.3%, meaning that we have that additional 0.8% for rainy days. So my question, because I wasn't on the finance committee this year, to Brad, where does that go? Into which of the 4 pots do we eventually get to spend?
That's not real money. We're not assessing that. We're not collecting that from anyone. We're only going to collect 2.3. When I say it's in a bank, it's in an imaginary bank, meaning that if next year our tax cap is 1.8%, when we go through the 8 steps and it comes out 1.8, we could go to 2.6. We could add that 0.8 on and still do it with a majority vote instead of a supermajority vote.
So that is a rolling tax cap? In other words, you don't use it
Margaret,
1 year, you
you
can
can't roll it
apply
forever. Is it 1 year or 2 years? You can roll it
2 years.
Yeah, we can only roll it for 2 years, so you can only keep it in your hat for a short period of time. Our thought was, well, obviously we didn't want to go out at 3.1, and we also think our calculation may be lower next year, so it might be good to have some of this available.
That's very helpful, thank you.
And quick response, I know Rob said we have a long-term strategy for how we may use our reserves, and it may have been apparent. We also have a long-term strategy for how we're going to replenish our reserves as well. So every conversation we have about using reserves also comes along with a conversation about being very mindful of what is in the fund balances.
And so how are we going to replenish our reserves?
Very carefully.
Effectively.
Carefully monitor spending.
Okay, that's fine. So my last question is, in looking through the 5 pages or 6 pages of the adopted budget, I actually don't know where to look for the costs to our district for the charter school new routes. And as a result, I think what happens is, I remember when we first started dealing with this issue of losing money, that we talked about it, making sure it was explicit to taxpayers that was happening. And now it feels very buried. And the issue that the PTA has with this is that there is a New York State advocacy mandate that the PTA stands behind legislation to change the funding approach for charter schools so that it does not jeopardize public schools. But if the public is not aware that it is a liability, the way it is currently funded, then how do we get people excited about that? So anyway, my question is, where is that in here?
Margaret, help me
Yeah,
out.
it's on, you've got this booklet, it's on.
I do have this booklet.
Under the adopted budget, it's on, at the bottom of the page, it says page 5.
Yes?
And then at the top, it says 2110 teaching, regular school.
Okay, wait, at the bottom of page 5, which is actually a
I'm
little
just getting
faint
you to
page
that
4.
page.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes, yes.
at the
yes.
top it says 210 teaching,
Okay.
regular
If you
school.
go down to where it says contractual and other,
Right.
the tuition is part of that number there.
All right, so as I read that, the proposed amount for that is $1,310,624.
That is not the only thing that's in that number, but this year it was around 900,000.
Okay, but that does not include special ed costs, transportation costs.
Never did.
No.
So those are all-
The special ed costs would be in our federal funds, the IDEA
Hard to
money.
break out.
Can we,
And Craig,
Margaret, can we follow up with a calculation on everything that?
Certainly, yes.
And Corinne, in the past, we did list the tuition separately, but as Jaden, just pointed out, I don't think we were ever able to pull out, the nurse expenses, the special ed, special ed, et cetera.
So let's Margaret to take a shot at that.
So I think we're going to, it's a very good point, that we're going to give, that would be nice for us to know as well. We know it's in the budget, and we know it's an expenditure. We have kids that do go for part of the year, come back, and it's really quite a moving target. But there's still a bill that comes to the district.
And
Very
maybe
clearly a bill that comes to the district.
that could be brought to the board and put into the minutes at some future
Oh, sure.
point.
If we could, Margaret, I assume we could have something for the meeting 2 weeks.
Absolutely.
Great, thanks.
It would be nice for us to hear more and understand about what that mandate actually means. What is a statewide PTA actually asking?
For actual legislation to be passed at the state level that will alter the method for funding charter schools so that it does not bear an inordinate burden on public schools, causing them to lose significant funds.
And there's more to that, obviously.
Yes, there's actually more, and I'd be happy perhaps later
I'd love to hear more about
approach on that. Yes.
Thanks, Grant. Good questions. Anyone else? You don't have to have 5 questions. 1 is fine. But we appreciate the 5 questions. Anything? Just give everyone ample opportunity. Eldred has a question.
I actually got periodically people actually call board members on this day, right, as we're adopting the budget. Either was very instrumental. I got a call today from 3 people actually asking me the same thing, and I had no knowledge of it, so I'm asking. The conversations were all about a perceived cut to our funding to BOCES that would allow special needs students to actually fully engage in their programming. And everyone was concerned that, you know, we have a set of young people who really respond well to the BOCES environment as opposed to the K-12 environment in the regular schools, and they were concerned about that money being cut. So I didn't have an answer.
We've had no discussion about it.
And neither do I.
Any
That's
services.
erroneous perception. We made no cut to both these program offers.
Well, there it is. It's gone out live.
There were
It's
just
viral.
And just so you know, remember in the BOCES district, which is more than our school district, there were districts who chose in this coming year to buy fewer services. We did not. We're continuing to acquire the same services as before, and any child who wants to avail themselves or for whom it's appropriate can use them. But there were some of our sister districts in the BOCES who specifically, backed out of certain services. So you may be hearing about
Someone else.
well, yeah, what you may be hearing is somebody at BOCES who's told someone they're delivering services to, my budget's been cut, which may be the truth. It's just not coming from the services we're buying, if that makes sense to you.
It makes sense to me.
Yeah.
And BOCES certainly is under the same pressures as the surrounding districts and really any public school entity. And their numbers overall, I think, have come down a bit. Correct, Brad? If I'm not mistaken. Well, Jay, you're the BOCES rep.
Yeah.
Come down a bit, so they...
Tiny.
Yeah, okay. Anyone else at this time? And we'll... If not, we're going to switch gears. Speak out. Okay. So thank you for the questions, and that ends the public hearing portion. So we're going to just go right into our regular public session. And at this time, I would ask for approval or modification of the agenda. I thought that
Adjourn, if I could.
yeah, you had a few. correct?
I'd like to add a supplemental personnel report. I think it was in front of you all, and it's dated today, labeled supplemental. I'd like to add that to the consent,
Right.
if we could, and then Dr. Eversley Bradwell is asked to have a few minutes added for discussion of one policy or policy strategy.
The onslaught of policies headed your way.
The onslaught of policies headed our way, so I guess I would add that as item, what is it?
Item
Roman
D.
numeral 6D, if we
Correct.
could.
And because it's Sean's birthday, we're going to go ahead and do that. Is that?
Yeah, that's right, otherwise we wouldn't.
Okay.
Exactly.
Sean policy.
That's the way you got that out there.
Brad, those are the 2 modifications, correct? All right. So now we are going to have another public comment section, and Pat, you did sign up. Corinne, you signed up.
I actually did sign up,
We're right. So
I'm still going to make another.
no, that's fine. Pat, if you're signed up, if you'd like to speak, and then Chris.
Thank you. Pat Eric, proud parent of a senior lacrosse player. Senior night tonight.
Oh,
So congratulations to the lacrosse team. First of all, there's 2 points I'd like to make in my information about New Roots Charter School. First, New Roots has been out of compliance with their charter agreement on many issues. One of these is enrollment. They have been under-enrolled for almost their entire 3 years, and their chartering agency has not placed them on probation for this violation. They are now attempting to alter the terms of their charter by petitioning the Charter School Institute to reduce their required enrollment number. By doing this, they are more likely to avoid continued enrollment violations, especially as their charter comes up for renewal. It is my recommendation to the ICSD board that they insist that a public hearing be held in Ithaca to openly discuss any adjustment to the required enrollment numbers. Secondly, during the last ICSD school board, a number of members inquired about the enrollment situation at LACS. It was stated that 325 was the expanded enrollment capacity following the additions to the LACS facility 2 years ago. Although LACS has a waiting list, they are currently under-enrolled by 34 students. Their enrollment stands at 291, having started the year at 298, with the smallest enrollment in the 9th and 10th grades. Some 30 students who might have attended LACS, a very successful alternative school with an excellent track record, may not have been given the opportunity to attend. If those 30 students were not offered a place at LACS and went to New Roots instead, the cost to the district this year is approximately $500,000. To save the district approximately $500,000 next year, students who are considering New Roots from ICSD should be offered available slots at LACS while respecting the current wait list. Thank you.
Thanks, Pat. And congratulations on Winston. He's a heck of a long pole defenseman. So it's been a pleasure to watch him over the years. And I can't believe he's a senior already.
Me neither.
So thanks, Pat. And is there a game tonight?
Vesta.
Okay. I'm always in a meeting.
I me too.
Corinne, go ahead.
So actually, this is a different hat.
Exactly.
I was talking then as a parent, taxpayer. I'm actually here because Chuck Lyons, who is the president of the PTA Council, could not make it. And he asked me, because I'm first vice president of the PTA Council, if I would please make the following statement. That the PTA Council, first of all, wants to thank the Board of Education for their engagement in the budget process, and that to make it clear to everyone that the PTA Council wants to support the passage of the proposed budget and the expenditure from the capital reserves, which I believe is proposition number 2. Yep. So proposition number 1 is supporting the budget, and proposition number 2 is supporting the use of the capital reserves funds in order for it to be available for specific projects. And so this is the PTA Council's statement to the public that we would really like to see that happen. And finally, he wanted me to also say that we would like to encourage the Board of Education to beat the superintendent, not literally, but I mean, you know, like in a race. Sorry. My husband is a pun guy. It's wearing off on me. Or it's rubbing off on me. It's maybe wearing off on me too.
I'm still stuck on the beat the superintendent.
Okay, I'm getting there. At innovation, so beat the race for innovation, for ways to involve parents throughout the decision-making process in the upcoming year. So that is one of the things the PTA Council sees as a really crucial issue. We know we have part of that responsibility, and we'd like to, you know, engage the BOE, the Board of Education, the same. Thank you.
Thanks, Corinne. Anyone else that has an opportunity? And so keep moving, and right on to student reps and Avi.
I'll hand it over to Noah.
Responses?
Later.
We respond later, after these?
Yeah. Go
Okay.
ahead, guys.
So, May 21st begins our annual start of the LACS Trips Week. Students will be going fishing and doing all sorts of stuff, and I will be going, what I will be doing, I'm in the community service class, and I'll be going to Mohawk Reservation to work with the school there.
So we will not be able to make it to the next board meeting. Yesterday, our school had a visit from representatives of the New York State Union of Teachers. They were looking at our classes and our community service program, as well as our Welcoming Allies and Mentors program, for an article in their upcoming monthly magazine.
There is a wave of students and parents at LACS who feel opposed to standardized testing, and they're joining with a statewide movement to boycott upcoming June field tests.
LACS is in the midst of discussing a new block scheduling proposal. Tomorrow morning it will go to vote among the students, and pending that approval it'll move to staff discussion and parents and caregivers.
Last week we had, for my senior team project, which is a graduation requirement, everyone has to have a team project. I organized what we call at ACS an infusion day. So it was focused on health. It's basically a day where a group of typically a group of students, or it could be a group of teachers, organize a day where we have sort of work, kind of like a conference workshop type things going on. So it went really well. We had a guest chef come in and cook a plant-based lunch, and we had a lot of workshops and stuff all related to issues of health, and it went really well. And recently, an LACS student, a senior, Cody Oster-Nacito, won the Tompkins Community Action Joe Cassantine Community Service Award, which is really great.
Our principal, Joe Greenberg, has been in preliminary talks with our physical education program to create a 21st century classroom. Using grant money, they hope this classroom will incorporate, they're going to take all the desks and chairs out and incorporate balance boards and interesting ways of seating, as well as having floor-to-ceiling whiteboards. It'll be piloted hopefully next year in a few different classes. So that's exciting and new.
On Sunday, there was a benefit concert for the trip to the Mohawk Reservation, the community service trip, and it went really well. And all of the money is going to the service projects that we'll be doing with Office Housing Green School.
And finally, tomorrow night, LACS students will host the 3rd annual Youth Candidate Forum for all candidates who are running for Board of Education. It's a chance for students to have a voice in this election, though they may not be able to vote. They can have a say in endorsing candidates who they really think will speak up for them on the Board of Education, which we all know is a very important role. So tomorrow night, 6:30 at the LACS Black Box Theater, all of the candidates will be there to answer youth questions. So that should be a very exciting experience. And it's good. 3rd year, that means every single candidate on the board will have gone through one of this process. So, and that's all we have.
Thanks, guys. At the high school.
In 2 weeks, every social studies class at IHS will be visited by a U.S. military veteran for Soldier Story Day. And this is an annual event. The soldiers share their stories with the students in the classrooms. Since every student at IHS does take social studies in some way, it reaches everyone. The National French Contest results were released this week, and many IHS students scored very well in this national exam, and their achievements will be recognized at a celebration in the library next Tuesday. AP art students at IHS, and these are students who have been taking art classes throughout their time at IHS and met the prerequisites for the class, will be working on murals and beautification of the doors at IHS, in addition to the existing murals that we already have at the school.
The year is drawing to a close, with many students we're preparing to take final exams for classes. This week and next week are AP exam weeks, and There are no announcements during these exam weeks, and as a result, students are a little isolated. And then also last week, we had an inmate from 5 Points, a former inmate from 5 Points maximum security prison visit us and speak to us. It was very interesting and in a unique perspective.
The Rock the Arts Music Festival is this Sunday on the Commons, featuring student performers from our school and community. As Brock would say, Proma, or Prom Drama, has started. Senior prom will be held at the Statler Hotel on June 15th from 7 to 11 p.m. Students are anxious to have full access to the new athletic center. The upperclassmen would enjoy the use of the weight and cardio equipment during free periods. We're not sure if this is an IHS staffing or board concern, but many juniors and seniors would love to get a workout during the school day outside of gym.
Anything else? We're good? Thank you. And now board responses. It's on the agenda.
Yeah, Pat, you raised a really interesting question about the, what do we call it, excess capacity at LACS. But I actually don't have enough information to intelligently respond. And I know we have someone in the room who could. So Joe, if you don't mind, could you help us understand what that means? I understand students come and go from your enterprise like they do at Ithaca High School. What could cause us to be at a point close to the end of the year where we have that kind of excess capacity? And is that how you would describe it at all?
Well, the 325 number was a number that our former superintendent sort of put out as a target number. Our site-based council, I think, had a slightly lower number. Regardless, I think what's interesting, Dr. Brown and I have had lengthy conversations of late about this issue. We have 300 was the number that we were going to go. When the building was midway through completion, we took 40 more students and capped it at 300 until the building was complete. That transition was a challenging one for us. It came with no staffing increase. We were going into the new building. We understood that, so Dr. Brown sort of agreed to sort of a temporary moratorium for this year because the building was we were still settling into the space. There's some thought that the building is even with the excellent renovation, the net gain of classrooms is about 2 after the renovation. We got some beautiful new library space, a new gymnasium, new kitchen facilities, but as far as classroom space, the net gain was not as significant as I think a lot of people believe it to be. There's been a lot of interest of late into looking at different ways ACS could support some work in the district or needs of the district, from housing and preschool program to an autism program, an expanded ESL program at the school. All these things we're taking a look at and saying, capacity-wise, it's going to be hard to have dedicated classrooms for those purposes, and most of those programs require a dedicated space. But we are, I think, honoring the requests and inviting the directors of special education and early childhood to come tour the building and take a look and assess whether or not our building could meet their needs. As far as wait lists and enrollment issues, we do have a cap on our special ed population that we can take. So when we're looking at more students, our special ed education student population, there's little to no attrition with that population. The way so that's where a lot of our students on our waiting list currently have IEPs. We did take a number of 9th and 10th graders 2 years ago. That was the area that the then superintendent asked us to focus our increase on. So those grades increased to close to 50 students each. To answer your specific question about why are numbers maybe mid-semester below the 300 threshold, it's due to attrition. throughout the district, there's attrition. We accept students twice a year, in the fall, the start of the first semester and the start of the second semester. We take a look at our numbers and then we work to get the numbers to that benchmark 300, current benchmark of 300. And then once we reach that, if people move 6 weeks into a semester, we do not fill that slot again until the next semester. I think that was your specific question.
Thanks, Joe. Dr. Brown, perhaps you could just respond to the vision of the health and wellness at the high school a little bit, just to, do you want to do that? Or the question from the students regarding, it would be nice if students could get a workout in off hours. Do you want to just
I would love to. If you let me jump on it, I was itching to respond. So as part of our Enriching the Day Generation Excellence program, we're looking to provide that opportunity during the school day and before and after school. I believe beginning on Monday, the 14th, if that's Monday, the 14th, we'll be opening the facility for young people and staff who wish to come in from 6:30 to 8 every day. And we're also working to figure out what that...
PM.
We're working on the afternoon. I forget. Most of us work out in the morning. So we're working on what that will look like for the afternoon hours also. We're looking to employ a full-time strength and conditioning coach, which we're excited about as well, and provide some other existing resources and new resources to provide the actual coaching and training on use of the equipment. So everything that you asked for and then some is coming. And it was great to be here this past weekend and see an AAU tournament happening in the brand new gym. Everything was great. The lights were working well. There were 2 baskets made all weekend. I was excited that at least a ball can go in. The clock wasn't, we figured out a couple of glitches with the clock, so the gym is being used, the adaptive room is being used, and now our world-class strength and conditioning room, we're hoping to be used more and more as we roll out what that will look like at the time. So it's coming.
But that certainly is, Brad, do you?
No, it was something else when you're done.
Okay, all right. But certainly that is the vision, that kids would have, the option to have flexible times, that, that there is going to be scheduling issues, with all the facilities, but, able to slide in and do a workout, when they have a free period, go back and, and eventually perhaps get PE credit for that, but we'll work on that.
I would love for you to come work out with me. I need a spot every 3 days a week, 6:30.
Well, as a rower, it's early workouts are the norm, so...
I hope you're not noisy on the inlet.
But that's IC and Cornell, I think. And Brad, so we are certainly, that's the reason that is all there. So Brad, go ahead.
Another topic brought up about considering boycotting exams. What's our impact on that? I mean, those are individual decisions. How do they harm? What do they do to the collective?
In my role, if I were to advocate for boycotting the exam, I wouldn't be in this role next week. So I won't be advocating for us to boycott any standardized assessment, period. Every assessment we put in front of a young person, they can choose to take or not take. There are intended and unintended consequences to that every time. Will we learn something from doing a standardized test at that time? Yes. Is it as much as we want to learn? No. Will you get an opportunity? I had to take a standardized test to get in this job. It was a 400-question multiple choice test with 3 essays at 8 hours. I had to do some preparation to do that. So every time you get a chance to do a standardized test that's multiple choice, that's high stakes. And being here was rather high stakes for me. I can see some benefits, but there are many, many negatives also. But those are individual decisions, regardless of whether or not it counts for our scores or don't. But please know, in my role, I can't endorse.
That's what I'm trying to ask. If we have what amount to a group of zeros on the test, what does that do to us as a district? What are the impacts?
I haven't been able to get a clear answer. I wasn't avoiding your question, but I didn't have a clear answer for your question. But
you can bring an answer back the next time. I mean, but I want these people to understand if there is a impact beyond themselves. I'd like to know what that is so that we can communicate that.
From the commissioner is for this field take test. That comes back to me, and how I didn't lead our organization in a way to have our young people in schools participate in a field test. So the commissioner can do, as you know, many things with me in my role. But for the individual student or the school, the ramifications, the consequences probably are minimal, other than making a stand against something that we believe in. But I will be the one having to deal with the consequences.
And then they'll be ranked based on a bunch of zeros.
Ranked on a bunch of zeros. And we'll have even more invalid tests. I mean, if the issue is around the test not being valid, having a bunch of zeros in the pool won't help this process going forward. Thank you.
Are you speaking to this?
Yes,
Go
I
ahead.
am. I remember during my teaching where we had to standardize a test, and that's what they're asking us to do. I think it validates the test for the next year. If there's no standardization on the test, it will be lower. There are zeros.
But there are consequences.
Yes, there are.
For whatever we do that isn't other than being compliant.
I understand it. I'd like to be able to communicate. I would like to think our building leader would communicate that they should take it for those who come after them.
Yeah.
As opposed to worry, just for themselves. But, if we can communicate that, I think that'll make the school better.
Not to bring up the real world or anything, but there was...
Well, I'd like to bring up the real world.
Well, no, but there was a time in my professional career that I had to take a test, and if I didn't pass it, I was fired.
Right.
As soon as I found out the results of the test, they would clean out my desk and I would have to leave. So eventually, there are tests that we have to pass. Leslie, did you have?
Well, I just wanted to go back to the health and wellness.
No, that's fine. Yep.
We are launching 2 new programs for credit recovery. If you remember a couple of years ago, I came before you all and spoke about how phys ed was a barrier to graduation.
Sure.
And so I've been working with Bill Bryant and the high school counselors. We've come up with a list of students, and we're going to be providing credit recovery opportunities through the Health and Wellness Center to try and catch seniors so they don't have to go to summer school. So that is going to be starting on the 14th of May as well. And in addition, our summer school program that we are running will be in the Health and Wellness Center. So those are 2 exciting things that are moving forward, where we'll be able to maximize the use of that facility.
And the benefits. Exactly. Thank you, Leslie.
Great.
All right, and I think that was very good. And on a consent agenda, if we could.
I'll move the consent agenda.
Second?
Second by Pat. Any questions? If no questions, all in favor? That's everyone. Then on to, did I miss it? There we go, superintendent's report.
Oh, thank you. Just 2 quick items. The grand opening for the Health and Wellness Center will be again on May 20th at 3:30 p.m. And we have a full agenda, which includes the community using the equipment and the facility. So we're hoping that the community comes out, support the grand opening, which will be on the 20th at 3:30 p.m. And the other thing, the most important thing, is this is Teacher Appreciation Week. And I wish to publicly recognize the many, many great educators we have in the organization. The job of a teacher has never been more critical, never been more complex at the same time. And our educators are working as hard as anybody I've ever been around. And it's been an honor to be with them every day. So as we have a chance to thank a teacher, or give a teacher something this week, please, because this is the week, so we should be recognized internationally. Those are my 2 items.
Very good. And we'll go on to school district business, and item A is the appointment of poll site managers and election inspectors. And Kira, this is your favorite subject, and Kira Johnson, our new board clerk, is doing a tremendous job of getting up to speed on managing her first election, and it is probably the most important job that the board clerk has to do. It is the most, May 15th is the most important day for really any board that has to go to the public and ask, will you support a budget that we are proposing to you? And so that's what will happen on May 15th. And Kira, what I'm looking at here is a whole list of folks that are going to be at the various poll sites, and this action will appoint those folks, and resolutions are there.
I'll move the
Correct.
resolution for the appointment of poll site managers as printed in the agenda.
Second by Seth. Any questions? It's all listed. I assume everyone's there and all the poll sites are listed. All set? Great, and it's a great job by Kara. All in favor? That is everyone. So we'll move on to item D. And Dr. Brown, I look at you, Dr. Brown, and you're going to explain to me why because I did have to pass that test a while ago and not get fired, but you're going to have to explain to me why is this school district calendar on our agenda again?
It's my favorite thing to do.
Yeah,
And because of that,
whenever we have a slow night, we just bring out the district calendar.
I just love it. And that's why I'm inviting Dr. Meyer to the table to talk about the calendar. We're gonna try something different. Maybe if I'm not sharing information about the calendar, we'll approve it once.
We could talk about the Health and Wellness Center a little bit more, but
So, as some background information, this calendar is on the agenda tonight for discussion and information purposes. We hope that the board will take action at the next meeting, because you will see some significant shifts in the proposed calendar for next year for many reasons, and hopefully we will walk you through why these shifts are occurring and what they mean for us, and have the discussion. But next meeting we hope to vote on one time.
So we don't need to move the calendar right now. You are giving us information.
Just giving you information about what we're... Yeah.
How come we can't vote on it tonight?
Our recommendation is not to. We've received several calls over the last few days, particularly, about one of the proposals, particularly around the winter break. And we feel it just may be appropriate for the community to understand the shift and to weigh in maybe over the next couple of weeks and before we make a final call. That's our recommendation. But again, the board can do what it wishes. But that's our recommendation, is to get the information out there and share it publicly before voting.
We appreciate that, so thank you, Leslie.
Sure, not a problem. Do you have it all? You all have it in front of you or in your Dropbox. So you'll see the first semester is pretty typical. We have a start day of September 4th with delayed openings for the different grade levels. That stays status quo. October, we have an early release day, which we have to show to the state that we have emergency preparedness, so we do that the day before the 5th, which is PLC day, and then the 8th, we have Columbus Day. November, we move into November, we have Parent-Teacher Conference Day, we have on the 9th, and then we have Veterans Day on the 12th. We have 3 days, the 21st, 22nd, 23rd for Thanksgiving recess. Then as we move into December and January, that starts to have a little bit of an impact of why we have to make the shift in February. So you'll see that our December break starts on the 24th, and we don't come back to school or work until the 2nd, so we have an extra day there. So just tuck that in the back of your mind. You'll also notice that on the 21st, we celebrate the late Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and then we immediately go into Regents examination. So that's a little bit of a shift. That's a little bit different for us. And then students have the weekend, and then we have PLC Day or Superintendent's Conference Day on the 28th. Where we have the shift is when we move into February. You'll see what we've proposed is for Friday the 15th, then Monday the 18th and 19th be a recess, where typically we've had an entire 5 days off from school. But we would come back on Wednesday the 20th, have school Wednesday the 20th, 21st, and 22nd. Now the reason we need to do that, if you look down in June, and I'm just going to fast forward so we can really understand about why we have to recoup those days. And it's not marked, I don't believe. I had a conversation with Dr. Ellen O'Donnell, our TST BOCE superintendent. They have something that they're calling erasure days, that they're adding 2 more days in June. So our testing actually starts on June 11th rather than the 13th. So we have 2 additional days that we have to account for. So think about the extra day that we took off for January, and then those 2 days. So we're going to have, again, February recess 15th 18th and 19th. We're back in school on the 20th. March, you'll notice, is also a little bit different. We have Parent-Teacher Conference Day. That's typical, a half day for elementary students. And then we have two proposals. We have right now listed a vacation day, but again, I spoke with Ellen, and she said we may want to consider having that be a PLC or Superintendent's Conference Day, just because of the regional cooperation that we have and some of the resources that we could pull together. So that's something we need to think about. And then the end of the month, that Friday, the 29th of March, is Good Friday, and then we have that next week off for spring recess. I did check the calendar, and I believe Passover starts either the 25th or the 26th, Margaret, isn't that right? So there's a little bit of overlap with spring break, but not completely. We have on the 26th, you'll see, is the ELA scoring day, that's indicated there. And then the typical Memorial Day recess for 24th and 27th. And then again, as I mentioned, we have those extra 2 days in June, the 11th and 12th, that go all the way through the 20th. So that's the calendar in a nutshell.
So the February break is a big shift for us.
Yes.
That's a big one.
It is.
And the other days and the other shifts are things we've had to do to accommodate that shift, which is coming on because of the additional Regents exams at the end of the year. So I was told when getting this job, don't touch winter break. And here I am in year 2, and we're adjusting for the winter break. So,
but you see who we have proposing.
Right.
So we're making it 3 days off instead of 5.
3 days.
Correct.
5. It's not a full week.
But it's 5 days
It's 5 days.
consecutive. My concern with the break was always to cut the flu season, you know, and stop it, and then, but I think 5 days could do that, yeah.
Any other comments, questions? Jay, go ahead.
No.
So I understand better, the 2 additional days, they're for Regents exams?
I'm not quite clear, but she said it was around erasures and, you know, the new testing and integrity component that was developed in the State Department. I think it's coming out of that, around looking if erasure marks are actually students have erased, or if it's adult or teacher driven. So there's something embedded with that we have an extra 2 days that are embedded in there.
They're mandated by the state that we all must comply with. 2 additional days of
2 additional days.
assessment.
Okay.
Those come away from instructional days? So Commissioner King, in spite of his language, is going backwards. He who would speak to more instruction is doing the opposite. I just want to make sure I understand what the Commissioner of Education is doing. That's what he's doing? He's taken 2 instructional days away in spite of the rhetoric for more instruction. Just, I want to make sure I understand.
We're getting the same number of contact days with students.
We'll have 179 days, and then we can count, depending on how many PLC days we do, we'll either have 2 or 3. So,
and that's why we were initially proposing that March date be
the 15th.
Be a PLC day that could count. So that's the one day. But to answer your question without using a name, that's what essentially is happening. That's the
Why not use a name? He is the Commissioner of Education in the state. It's his job. You know, he took the appointment. He's the one, I read in the Times, all his rhetoric. I just want to make sure I understand that it's rhetoric and it's not real. That's all.
This is how it plays out.
Okay, just want to make sure I understand.
Seth, then Sean. So Commissioner King heard that loud and clear, Brad.
No, I didn't. No, it's just rhetoric.
Everyone walks on board meetings.
Yeah. I can't do anything with Commissioner King, but what I can do is there's a proposal before us which seems necessary to find these 2 days. It seems like you have found the 2 days. We're waiting a week to have people say they want a longer break. I mean, is there
an alternative? I don't get why we're not voting on this tonight. Are people going to say we want it the way it was? And then we'll say, well, we can't because we need these two. I mean, is there an alternative plan we should be voting on? Or like, that's what I'm, this is your best thinking of where to find the days, so.
This is our best thinking, yeah. And the community piece and the communication piece was what we were most concerned about. And having it out there as information before it being the actual calendar that has been approved was just something we recommend. And in calling around the state, because there are many districts who are moving in this way as well. They've all, as superintendents, we're all putting it out there to our communities for a few weeks to let it marinate. Because it can be seen as we just made this shift one night at a board meeting and didn't have conversations with the community or didn't inform folks. And
well, let me ask you this. If every member of the community is opposed to this plan, then what do we do? What's the alternative? Next week when we come back and they call us, 1,000 people call us, what are we going to say? I mean, what are we going to do?
Similar to what's happening with the community conversations, if there are suggestions for, if people aren't happy with it, I've asked for a suggestion for improvement. We've had multiple conversations with Sue, we've had multiple conversations with a bunch of folks to get to this point. If there's other thinking out there that may come to the forefront because they didn't even know this was an issue, I'd welcome that. This is our best thinking, but in no way do I think it's the only thinking. So there may be an opportunity for someone to come and figure out how to use that March date, or where we get some additional time that I haven't thought about. And this 2-week time, while it could be longer, I think will be an appropriate amount of time. We're recommending for us to talk about it.
My two concern, and I'm not sure how much the concern is, but I know that I greatly value the Ithaca Loves Teacher Week, and wondering how with the impact, if we're changing our calendar, what the impact is going to be on that. I really, so that's a concern for me for a number of reasons. And I understand what Seth is saying, and normally I like to support Seth in pushing us to make sure that we move things forward. And but this is one that I think actually does us no harm to let it sit out in the community and see if there's some excellent thing that comes back to us. We may be back here next week, but it is what it is, just to let folks process the calendar. It's a significant shift, I can tell you, for teachers. I've already been asked about it at the high school among students, and so I think it behooves us to sort of have some conversations, engage some dialogues about why this is necessary, and or ask people to give their best thinking if there are alternatives. So I would hold off on an action for tonight. I'm voting on it.
And Susan was just appreciating teachers this week. Susan, please go right ahead.
Oh, yes, and we appreciate it. I've worked as closely as I can regarding the calendar and with Dr. Brown. There are issues set and there are other alternatives. This was our best thinking, but this is not necessarily the calendar we all love. And there is not, let's call it the occasion to meet Dr. King, and was less than happy, and he did not receive a very warm reception at the NYSET Annual Representative Assembly. Half the people walked out, the rest just couldn't stand the rhetoric, there was no answer, because he would not answer certain questions. And we do have to question it. These are erasure days, and we're taking 2 days to do what? And why is there no school? And what do we do with those days? Will the elementary teachers have contact and the secondary not? Where are the students during this time? And we looked at the February week as how much contact time could we put prior to assessment. And I will speak later to the issue of our students are not test scores, and although we need assessment and data, but I will at the commentary do that. But there are alternatives that I've got 3 or 4 other possible combinations and permutations where we still have our 184 contractual days with as many student contact days as possible, and to heck with some of the state regulations about this. As long as we meet what the students know, let teachers teach and students learn.
Brad?
Just a query, I mean, since we share a lot of services with BOCES, do we have to adopt the same calendar that everybody else in the BOCES does?
We need to be as close as we can. That was one of our points.
But we don't have to be identical.
We don't have to be identical.
Okay,
and in some instances, we are not. I do have, they sent their calendar to me.
Okay, all right, so you know where we're off from what BOCES think, what their thinking is? Okay.
We have that was considered into our decision
Put that in our
making.
Dropbox.
We have, if I can go back to,
Did you say that? Would you say
Put that in our Dropbox.
the BOCES calendar? Okay.
I have spoken to some of the folks at the chamber. They were well aware that this was coming. Actually, they said they knew this was coming for several years now, around Ithaca Teachers Week. And I think they have plans to continue that outstanding event in light of what's happening here.
And Jay?
Specific question in March, why did you take those 3 days, and why'd you put the Friday one instead of maybe go Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday?
For February, you mean?
Oh, yeah, February, yeah, with whatever, yes, February.
I think we just thought how to maximize a weekend in there to have 5 days for the students, so.
But it would be 5 days, if it was Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday.
Don't forget, state President's Day is in there.
What day, I'm sorry?
Thumbs up.
Monday,
It's a federal holiday and you're incorporating that into your 4 days. It's not really an extra day.
That's Monday.
Right, so say your question again, Jay.
So why Friday? Why not Wednesday? Why not a Wednesday instead of Friday?
So do
It's an option.
Oh, and having a 2-day week?
No, 2 days in the week.
Right, exactly. It would be Thursday, Friday.
That's why it was a 2-day week.
2 days.
Right.
Apparently, we don't do 2-day weeks, but Andrew does 2-day weeks.
That's bad? Okay.
Do you have anything, Andrew?
I mean, I was just gonna say that, I mean, obviously a bunch of students aren't gonna like the loss of days in February, because it's nice because it's about a month after reading exams, so it's about a month into the second semester, so it's just nice to have a full week off to stress it.
It'd be great.
It's nice for the adults too.
Frankly, Susan, I still remember when we had President's Day off, correct?
I also remember when we followed the Cornell calendar 1 year and the Ithaca College calendar another year, and our own calendar the 3rd year in a rotating cycle. So there are a lot of memories.
Exactly. So I've never gotten quite used to the President's Week, but Pat, then Seth, then we'll keep going.
My own recollections are I'm so old that we didn't have a February break, but we had to wait till spring, but look how we all turned out.
Exactly.
Why the Friday before spring break plus the whole spring break?
Good Friday.
Do we always get that?
There are some contractual issues, not my union and whatever, but there is an attempt to honor Good Friday when at all possible. When you look at the total number of days in a year, and so you'll have to look at your employee's contract because there's something in there about Good Friday and then if it's a floating holiday or not. So that's how it got worked in.
All right, getting down in the weeds, but go ahead.
Yeah, talking about the weeds, first of all, I don't want to be involved in creating a calendar. I certainly don't think the 9 members here would add any clarity or help in, creating a calendar. But if we're going down that road and not going to adopt what you guys have proposed tonight, what's the alternative? Give me, prime me a little bit. Are we starting school earlier to get, what are we doing if we're not doing this? Because
Right, Susan mentioned 3 alternatives.
Yeah,
You don't have to list them all, but...
no, yeah, but are we moving things? Are we starting earlier in August? Or are we staying late? What are we doing? That's what I'm trying to...
All of the above. Again, this is our recommendation and our best thinking. We do wish to hear from the community and hear from students about their thinking around it, and we will take that on. Quite frankly, I think it's going to be much of what we have a chart that we put together that goes through all the scenarios and why we chose this one, the pros and cons. We'll share them with the board. But unless there's a major shift and a major reason why, I think we have thoughts about it, but we don't anticipate many shifts. Again, these 2 weeks are for the conversation and information that we want to put out there. And we're in no hurry.
We do ask for your patience and indulgence because something could come down from the state where we may be coming to you again, but...
we look forward to this topic being on the agenda.
And we know...
But I do know many other school districts are going through this process this week, and most of them are doing it information only, so enough pressure on the before mentioned person may cause some shifts over the next couple of weeks. So we are being purposeful with that. We have this information item tonight versus the approval before we talk.
I'll co-sign your letter, Brad.
Thanks.
All right, as long as everybody else is having to go through this, that makes me feel better, I guess.
I hope you realize how painful this is.
Good. I think we've, hopefully we've beaten that up enough, and there's a bunch of folks in the room that I think would like to talk about the community-based program at DeWitt, and I would like to really get to that. If we could. Do that. And that is indeed what we'll talk about right now.
We need to set up the slideshow. Do you want to just take like 2 minutes to do that?
Oh, well, why don't we take a little break, and then please feel free to set up, and you can
You too. Come on. Give him that 2 minutes.
you know, I have them. happy to hear from you and the folks regarding this program.
Thank you. I'm actually going to turn it over to my colleague, Tricia Armstrong. This is her program, her class, and she's been doing it for a long time, so
Yes.
I'm going to follow her lead.
Tricia Armstrong, I teach at DeWitt Middle School, community based, and I just want to give you a little heads up of what community based is. But first, I want these guys who sat, I think, remarkably long.
Yes.
You can just tell them your name.
Me, Devin, Ollie,
Richard, the mayor. Some of you might know what the community base is, but I'm going to give a short overview because I think a lot of people do not know. I've been doing it 22 years, and I still have people come up and say, well, what do you do? So it's a life skills program that teaches kids within the school community, and then we take those skills out into the larger community. Okay? Give me a chance and I'll give you a chance. Got it? All right. So, in general, most of the students that we have don't generalize information really well. And so if they learn, as an example, how to tie their shoes here, they might go to another room and not have any idea how to do it. And so one of the reasons years ago when they started the community base was at that time we brought a lot of our kids out of BOE, brought them back into their home schools, and we had put into place a program to allow the kids to be able to be successful across the board. As time went on, we've got more and more kids in the mainstream, and that's been successful at some level, but at another level, it's not so successful. There's not a lot of direct instruction that can happen to kids who have significant regression and who don't generalize information well. It's really hard to go into a classroom, co-teach that classroom, and give direct instruction to kids who lack lots of repetition. So that's what we're doing. Are you having a dance time here now? You're getting the heebie-jeebies out? So, in the past, what we've done, and it's no longer part of our program, and that's why I'm here to present it. In the past, we had a co-taught practical arts program where myself, the art teacher, the SES teacher, and the tech teacher co-taught a class with our students. Mainly because we could move at a slower pace. We could give information, stop and really explain information to kids so they really understood why we were doing what we were doing. You take some of my students who throughout the years are maybe right now are just really ready to learn more about history, but they've sat in classes in the past and learned a little bit about American history in fourth grade. They might have learned more about New York State history. And you ask them questions. At that time, they maybe weren't taking in all the information. Now they go sit in a 6th grade or 7th grade social studies class, and people start talking about the Revolution and King George, and they say, well, why didn't you call them up and tell them you're not going to pay those taxes? Why don't you just get on a plane? They don't have that background information. So they can sit in those classes and they can be taught, or can listen, but it's not getting in there because they need basic fundamental skills. And unfortunately, we've lost some of that. So I'm here to say that inclusion works. We push kids out in inclusion, but this kind of model also works. So I just think that's really important to hear. Kids need life skills across the board. We have a greenhouse. Our kids grow all the plants from seed. We sell them in the community. They have to interact with community members. They have to tell people about the plants. They have to take the money, find out how much it costs, make change. In our tech program, they have to learn math. They know what a T-square is, what a T-square is for. Mostly for the angles that we're cutting. They're not making architectural drawings, but they know what those tools are for. In FGS room, we do lots of cooking. Once a week, we make lunches for staff. And the kids have to come up with a menu. We go to Wegmans and they have to buy the stuff. Then we come back and they have to prepare it. They have to deliver it. They have to get the money from the teachers and they have to pick up the dishes. And what do you have to do at the end?
You have to clean.
And put away.
And I get really bored.
That's right. Well, somebody's got to do it. So they're real important life skills. And when our kids are gone, I think, like I said, I've been doing this here for 22 years. I can tell you over 3/4 of the students that I've had are still in jobs. So we've done a really good job of getting them prepared, maybe not to go to college, but to be able to be contributing members of the Ithaca community, and they're still here. So 2 years ago, we lost that co-teaching piece. We don't have the funds. We all know we're in tough budget times. We don't have the funds to pay for us to co-teach those classes. So we lost it, and our kids have it. And this year, I tried to get my kids in art and health, and we're working on it, art and health and FCS and tech. But unfortunately, the classes are huge. And you have an art, we used to have 2.5 art teachers, we have 1. We used to have 2 health teachers, we have 1. We used to have 2 FCS teachers, we have 1. So the classes this year are 30 and up before you put any of my kids in there. And so the chances of them being successful isn't going to work. Or, you know, there's some level of success for some of them, but we've had more successes in the past. So this year, Mr. Buckner ended up having a full-time job, but 20 weeks out of his job of the year, he only had to teach 4 classes. So he went to Mr. Knight and asked our principal if he could pick up our class and do a tech class again, like we've done in the past. And Mr. Knight was very supportive of that, and the kids were really excited about it. And so we did this with no budget from anybody here. We had all the supplies that we did were donated to us. So we had people in our building, 2 people in our building donated all the wood. And we wanted to do a presentation. We wanted to make something that gave back to our community or had to do with our larger community. So we wanted to make picnic tables for DeWitt. But unfortunately, well, fortunately, but Mr. Knight's already ordered some. So we decided, what else could we make out of this wood? And they all, because they all cook, work on cutting board in the FCS room. So we decided that we would do cutting board. And when we got done, I think the most satisfying piece for me is that there were more of their peers that came in because we switched classes and they wanted to buy them. And we didn't have enough to sell to them. But instead, some of them have taken it on themselves as an individual project. And so their peers have seen what they did, and now they've gone ahead and said, we want to do that too, which I think is really high praise for these guys. So we're going to show you a slideshow, and if you guys want to sit back by Mr. Knight, you can watch it. Okay? You're not going to be able to see it yet.
Do you want to pause between them?
No, I think they can start. Yeah.
That would be helpful.
Here we are.
So we start right at the beginning. They had to unload all the lumber. I would say it's a 15-1-2 with my class, meaning 1 teacher, 2 teaching aide, teaching assistant, and a mainstreaming aide. But actually, we have 17 kids because we have too many students. More students that need our help. So now they were planing the wood. Who remembers what size the strips had to be?
Don't remember.
1 by 11. You did the measuring. What were they? 1 by 11 or something?
I don't know.
Me either.
So obviously, you're seeing a lot of pictures in the technology education lab. In the past, this is what my 20-something year I've worked with Tricia with the community-based class, and historically we've concentrated on developing vocational-based skills for the children so that as they become young adults, they'll find gainful employment. We teach, just as she said, real-world skills, entry-level skills. These slides are really about safety and working together and quality control and the whole manufacturing business atmosphere of what it's like to produce a sellable product. And there's a lot of work here. We made about 60 of these. It took about half the year. You'll see a couple pictures at the end here. We're using a laser engraver, one of our new tools that we use as part of the manufacturing process. Kids were eager to use that. As you can imagine, that was kind of cool. So we're constantly reinforcing, working together. We spent some time actually talking about how hard it is to work together. Did some research. Gallup poll for years has done a research study saying the #1 reason why people lose their jobs in this country is not because they're incompetent, because they can't work. We spend a lot of time trying to figure out how to work together. And some people are better at jobs than others, and we had to figure out, well, just because that person's not as good, maybe with a little bit of training, they could be just as good as you. And that's a valuable lesson. Some of the kids obviously struggle on some of these things. And there's a lot of equipment. It's intimidating. We had to go through a lot of different demonstrations, some safety. Obviously, there's a lot of safety here. I think this slideshow kind of tells the story. Are there any questions? Here's the laser. I think Patricia was taking pictures. We had the kids taking a lot of these pictures too. It wasn't really, this is a kid's project. Yes?
But when you talk about job placement, my mind automatically goes to challenge. Is that a major repository or a partner, or are there other places where the kids are?
Not anymore, actually. Because we have more and more of our kids included, there's fewer of my majority of my students going to Challenge. In the past, that were the major employers. But today, that's not the case. There are more and more entry-level jobs that, like, we have kids work at TJ Maxx, at Applebee's. I have a former student who's a manager at Walmart, another one who works in the plant department there. So they're not part of Challenge.
Inclusion in the classroom means inclusion in the real world.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Is there any equivalent of the program at the high school level?
Yeah. 2 years ago, we started a new program at the high school. We used to have a half-day BOCES, half-day high school. Now there's a full day at the high school and a half-day. Some kids go to BOCES for World of Work or some other vocational pieces. So there are 2 classes now at the high school, actually, so that our kids feed into. And there's a tech piece, which these kids would feed into, but if we're not having tech, they're not feeding into it. There's a new one I think they took for BOCES. You could see.
Right, so the World of Work program, the BOCES, the way it was currently taught, Scott Regal and a couple other folks in high school spent a couple of days up there looking at the facility and what the kids were walking away with. We felt pretty dissatisfied. Felt like it was a disservice to the kids. So we said we can do a better job. And that's, in fact, exactly what we did. So our children in this program will also be going to the program here at the high school to continue what they've done here at DeWitt.
That's yours, Dr. Brown. That's yours. Are there any other questions? We just really wanted you to hear what they knew, and if anybody wants to, we have a greenhouse full of plants up at DeWitt. Please come and buy them. And we'll get a plant sale up next week up at the Armory. So the kids, they're all real life skills. Like I said, they have to make change. They have to talk to people. Looking at our outcomes, we're not looking at their disabilities. We're looking at what they really can do.
My only question is, where can I buy a board from?
Right from me. That's I have one here. You want to buy one?
Yeah, there you go.
So let me just add my final 2 cents here. I went to Mac. I only had 4 classes. What do you think? I'm going to go down to Trisha's room and see if I can pick up those other classes. And mind you, that's not an easy thing to do because her kids are scattered all over the building. And we had to do this 2 different time periods, 2 different semesters. And I felt like it was an afterthought because we don't have an FTE for these children anymore. And it's really disappointing. I mean, there's a lot. Granted, I have a biased viewpoint here, but I think this speaks for itself. We need to give these children the advantages that all of my other kids have. And by not having this program, they don't have this. But as Trish, as amazing as she is, probably is not going to teach my class. She does a great job with FCS, without an FCS teacher, without an art teacher. But you need someone like me in order to do this project. And I guess what I'm asking is, we need to bring this back. We need to fund this somehow. And I don't know how to do that. I mean, this is what your gig is, but
Dave,
we need to include them.
Was this, for these 2 semesters, was that a one-off essentially for you? You're not always going to have the opportunity or the time to, the open slots to do this, or,
well,
in the future now, and that's what I'm asking.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what what the schedule looks like for next year, and maybe Matt can speak to that a little better, but I mean, I think there's some flexibility right now because we have such few kids at DeWitt that I think we can pull this off. In years past, I remember having 5.5 classes in order to have this class meeting. We did that for a couple of years. I mean, I think we've had a lot of flexibility in the past, and now with the budget situation that we're in, we don't have that flexibility, and you know, these are the kids that get the short end of this.
Mac,
One-
go ahead, Trish.
Can I just mention one thing too that I think is important, and maybe everybody here knows it, but I don't know that that's the case. We are the only building in the district that has an autism program, a SEATS program, a community-based program, and an ESOL program. Not even our high school has all 4 of those. So there's some equity issues there too. I just want to throw that out there. Because it's the only building, and these kids deserve to have more than just, it's not going to serve some of these kids to go into a tech class and just learn how to use a smartboard. Because they need other real-life practical skills. So
Well,
I just appreciate your listening.
and nor is it practical for this particular group of students to be in my engineering classes. They need a self-contained, safe environment where we can work together as a team and not try to compete with all the other students that obviously have abilities that are going to be different than theirs. And that's, it's inequity.
Mac, do you want to speak?
Well, yes, I just wanted to piggyback on what Dave's saying. This is my first exposure to this particular program after Dave said 2 years ago they stopped it for lack of funding, and it was funded through the special ed funding source. Given the reorganization structure now, and given some of the things that we're beginning to be creative with at DeWitt, we're looking at ways to not only retain this but add to this. You know, I spoke with Dave about and with Tricia about maybe having a 10 weeks program where the students are having 10 weeks of tech, 10 weeks of art, 10 weeks of music, and 10 weeks of FCS, and so that they could be involved in those particular programs that would give them essentially life skills kinds of experiences that we saw in this program. So we're looking at how to rearrange and reorganize our schedules to make that happen. Not only this, but I think Dave said that this particular class used to make the sets for our drama productions and our musical production as well. So they did a lot of things in terms of what I just come to know of what they used to do. So we're trying to get that back. It's going to take some creative scheduling. One of the biggest problems that, the middle school level that you very well know is that there are certain mandates that the state says you have to teach at the middle school level. So it eats up all our periods in terms of what we have to provide for students. And so with the limited staff that we have to provide our general education students with those state mandates, it makes it kind of, difficult and challenging to utilize our general ed staff to provide these kinds of hands-on experiences, in those particular classes, solely for this group of students. And so we're looking creative at how to do that next year. I think it can be done. As I said before in my earlier presentation, I'm a visionary, and I do believe that can happen, and I want it to happen.
Thanks, Mac.
Thank you very much.
Oh, and thank you, Tricia. Go ahead.
To B. Devin Ali, is that correct? Ali. And Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Mayor.
Thank you for your time, and thank you for teaching us tonight. I greatly appreciate your time coming. Thank you very much.
And now they get to go to purity, so.
Nice to meet you. You're Linda, right?
Simply Mary. Thanks for sharing your budget
Thank you, Leslie. Well, oh yeah, definitely. Dr. Brown gets a present again. Dr. Brown gets a cutting board. The kids get to go to purity. If we could have settle down, folks, please. So again, Dr. Brown gets a cutting board as a gift. The kids get to go to purity, and we get to listen to Sean talk about policy.
I should have saw the setup coming. I was waiting around. And actually, the conversation about policy is just to give the board and the community a little bit of heads up what's going on. And I would ask Dr. Myers to correct and or add anything I'm saying as we proceed, as well as my policy co-committee members, Judy Maxwell and Pat Watson. The policy committee met earlier this week to talk about the student code of conduct, which we're legally required to update every year. Dr. Myers has been amazing in facilitating a number of committees to help review our Safe Schools plan, our our code of conduct, including this year of doing 2 different versions of the plain language code of conduct, one geared towards elementary school students and one geared towards secondary school students. And all that information will be coming to you. The committee briefly reviewed it in preparation to do a more thorough review for the May 25th meeting that the policy committee is having. 24th. And then preparation to have that to the board the first week in June. The reason why I'm letting you know this is because it also, this year, the Student Code of Conduct also includes the DASA Act, which many of you have been paying attention to and learning about. It's a good, I'd say 10 to 15 pages in the Student Code of Conduct. It's going to include a number of other policies in addition to that. As I'm sure many of you know, it's going to have some funding implications, it's going to have some training implications. And the implementation of it is going to be one thing above and beyond us just passing the paperwork and getting things on paper. And so when this comes to the full board for the first meeting in June, the recommendation is that the board will spend some time to read the roughly 140 pages of semi text that's included in all these documents to make sure that we can then pass it quickly and get it off to the printer in time to be back in time for our opening of the school year. That says nothing about the New York State School Board Association review of our policy. We have not even begun to touch that, in large part because this work has been so substantial, and we're not trying to overwhelm the board with your absolutely favorite topic in the world of reading more and more policies. But I will say these 2 policies in particular are going to have significant impact in terms of how we do business in this district. And whether it's our favorite issue or not, one of the main priorities of any school board above and beyond the budget is upkeeping of policy. And so these next couple ones are big ones in terms of what we do. So just be on the lookout for Student Code of Conduct and DASA. Thank you.
Exactly, Sean, and we treat the subject with good humor, but it is tremendously important, and as always, we appreciate the work that not only you, Sean, have put into, but the policy committee. It is a...
I'm even beginning to like it.
Beginning to like it. And Judy, as I said, this was the important committee, and we need you on there. So it's big work, important work, and we have the best people on it.
First, I want to say something here.
Go ahead.
We all keep saying how important this is, and how great it is, and how great you are for doing it. Don't believe it. I feel a little bit bad that both Judy and Pat used to be normal, and then they got connected to this man with the beard, and it's gone all downhill from there. This love of policy is sickening, and it must stop.
We'll reconvene later on.
Let's see what we can do about that.
Wow. Judy, that's it.
You didn't know me before I started doing policy.
Wow. Yeah, right.
I gave you.
I was trying to be nice so nobody would ever put me on the policy committee. So, just wait. Sean, are we good? That was the update.
Absolutely.
And
look up, please.
Right, and other business by board members, anything else? And Judy had something that she hit me about.
Well, this week is National Teachers Appreciation Week. Tomorrow is National School Nurses Appreciation Day. And I think we should recognize that. And so for those people who will see a school nurse tomorrow, shake their hands, because that's another job.
Wash your hands first.
Before and after.
Before and after.
Thank you for their service. Thank you for our staff, teachers, and another round of applause for that. But go ahead, Eldred.
So we had a Human Resource Committee meeting today, and we had a fascinating experience. The meeting was attended by 2 teachers who were extremely curious about how we are re-engineering our hiring process. And we said that we were going to take the opportunity, any opportunity, to correct any misinformation and to actually explain to the public why we've done this. Public TV is a perfect opportunity to do this. So we are re-engineering the hiring process so we can attract better, deeper pools of talent. That is it. There seems to be a belief that we're doing this simply to attract a more diverse workforce, and although that is certainly an outcome that we desire, and that our kids and families in this district have said would be important for them, We're actually doing this for one reason and one reason only. I'm going to continue to say this as long as I'm associated with human resources in this district. We need teachers who come to us for whom we can develop to have the following characteristics. Right? The first, subject matter expertise. The second is classroom management, and the third is cultural competency. Anybody who's been in the profession for a long time, including the teachers who are with us today, understands that that's the magic mixture that will get this district moving even further in the position to change our culture into a culture of excellence. So Bob, our HR director, and Dr. James have re-engineered the process now, so we're actually training committee members. So for those folks in the community who represent different constituencies, if you want to be a part of our hiring decisions moving forward, you will have to submit to a standardized training module. And then we're going to ask you to do some more things even after that. And we're not exactly sure what was happening in prior regimes, but if you have a stack of 30 resumes that hit your desk, we need to be sure that everybody's actually reading them. We need to be sure that everybody's actually going through the process to determine what the best mix and the best possibilities are out of that stack. So there's one opportunity to help clear up some information for those of you who meet with parents, who meet with prospects, who meet with members of the community who are concerned about this. Please spread the word so we can nip this in the bud. This process hopefully will get us to better teachers in a faster manner so we can begin to hire in November, December, January, April, and not what has been our course, which is to try and jam every teacher in a box in the middle of June. Right? That'll make a lot of building leaders and a lot of directors happy, so I wanted to get that information out there. Follow the process. I know Dr. Brown's going to take his chance of putting something in the Insider. We're going to get something hopefully on our website, but this is a major re-engineering of one of the most critical aspects of our operation. It's important that we actually explain what we're doing and why.
Thanks, Albert. Chris, go ahead.
Just to piggyback on what Elton said, I think the beauty in it is the fact that the teachers were able to come down and have that dialogue, and we have that openness. And I hope that folks will see that there's nothing to hide, and we encourage that. And we're, everything's posted, and we're available to them.
And Brad, then.
I just want to remind folks of the Kids Discover the Trail Full Circle. This Saturday, your chance, everyone's chance, if you want to get on a bus at any of the elementary schools, starting at 9:25, 9:40, and 10. It's on the website, on IPEI's website and KDT's website. Parents are invited to come along. We'll have buses. You can go to any of the different 8 Kids Discover the Trail sites. Take the chance, take your kids, take your grandkids, enjoy the day, and the transportation is provided for it. They're calling it Full Circle because if you started here in pre-K and you're in 5th grade now, you will have been to all the sites. The program's been around long enough now that if you've been with us, you've been to all the sites. So that's what it's about. So if parents were wondering, what the Museum of the Earth is about because they've never been there, or the Laboratory of Ornithology, or something like that, here's the chance, transportation provided.
And the weather's supposed to be very nice.
It's supposed to be a nice day to do it.
Yeah.
Exactly. Pat.
I just wanted to go back to the recent committee meetings and just note for everyone that the 2 teachers who attended the HR meeting today remarked what a wonderful time they had under Eldred's leadership and how they would be coming back in the future. And last Thursday, Shirley Kennedy attended our policy committee meeting, and I believe also had a very good time.
English teacher.
I enjoyed it, Judy.
But I think the policy committee the other day had snacks partway through, so I'm not sure if that always happens.
We had water.
Just water. So.
We had snacks and cookies.
Are we good?
We did have cookies.
We're going to go right over to Kira.
I just want to remind everyone to vote May 15th. We have 4 candidates running for 3 seats. We have Jay True, Sean Eversley Bradwell, and Albert Harris as incumbents running, and we have Kevin Brew, who's in the back, running as non-incumbent. Just wanted to get the word out so everybody remembers to vote.
The budget.
The budget, of course, is going to be included when you vote, but no one mentioned the candidates.
Right
And
here.
GIAC, Thursday night, there's a candidate forum at GIAC at 6 p.m. Is that right, guys? 6 p.m.?
Well, there's one tomorrow night.
Yeah,
Tomorrow night at
at
6:30.
LACS Theater.
And Kira, just remind me what time the polling places are open.
They're open 12 to 9.
12.
And if you don't know where to vote, you need to call the Tompkins County Board of Elections, and their number is...
But Kira, as opposed to a general election, the polling places are not open on your way to work, so it's
No,
really,
it's 12 p.m.
Right.
to 9 p.m.
Right. It's really 12 to after work, so it is important to remember that as we go about our day next Tuesday and not get stuck in the wrong place and not be able to get to the voting booth if we want to do that.
I will just say that Dee mentioned that the ACS kids in the Ithaca Youth Council are doing this tomorrow night. They asked some very difficult questions last year. I was in the audience. I'm a little afraid, but I'm going to show up.
As you should be. That's good. Kira, thanks again for that update. I appreciate that. I appreciate you stepping up and reminding us of that. Anything else from anyone? I think we're about ready to wrap up, I believe. Can I do a motion?
Motion to adjourn.
Thank you. Seconded by Seth, and all in favor? That's without objection. Thank you very much. Oh, Susan, let teachers... Sorry, go ahead.
Okay, just a minute, please. I know that people want to go, but I just want to make a statement. This is Teacher Appreciation Week, and we appreciate your recognition of us. It helps if you let people know what they're doing right. I've heard a lot of parents say what a difference teachers make in the lives of their children, especially during some of the more difficult stages in relationships and families. Teachers go way out of their way to make sure it's not just about the academics. I wear this sign to remind you that teachers are here to teach the children, not to raise them, but to teach them, to educate them, to facilitate what goes on, and to help them do well in their lives. Our children are not test scores. Our children are our children, and we know that there's a need for assessment. There's an amazing movement out that's really targeting teachers and blaming with failure. I want to tell you that this district and the people in this district are really successful, that I'm working closely with HR and other administrators to take any teacher who has a problem or a concern and provide them with support and training to help your children get what they need. If you have a problem with your student or you don't understand, you need to ask the teacher. We're here to help. We're here to find out. You know about your children. Share with us the concern. Share with us the joy and the successes, because we all want to make a difference. Thank you.
Thank you, Susan.
You're missing one important component, and that's the parent piece.
If it's about your children, that's what I meant. The parents should make contact with us, or guardians, or whomever it is that's working with the kids.
Thank you, Susan. Thank you, Chris. And thank you all. We're adjourned.
Yes, that is.